We have a construction crew outside. If you can't hear, now you know. I feel like he should have been a guest.
Yeah.
Whatever his name
We
is.
should get him in.
Yeah.
It's such fast moving.
Yeah.
And you really kind of you got to learn the camera.
Yeah, for sure.
To know, to be able to, how to get those good shots, right? How to be able to focus in correctly, right? So I'm learning all the shutter stuff, the continuous shots. One cool feature about the camera that I got, the R5 Mark II,
Yep.
is it lets you do a face recognition of the person that you want it to lock into.
To lock on.
That's so like I uploaded a picture of my daughter, and if it finds her in a mix of other soccer players,
yeah,
it'll lock onto her quicker and it'll show, face recognition.
Yeah.
And then it'll just, as long as I'm half pressing the focus, it'll stay locked on her. And then I just hit it. And
that's pretty cool.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's cool stuff. Anyways, I'm still learning, and I took your advice, or trying to take your advice of picking it up more.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, it's with anything. I mean, if you only, I'm guilty, right? Like I should want to shoot photographs other than the winter, but that's just what I enjoy doing. So I should probably pick it up more and find something to shoot in other months. But if you're not using, it's with anything. I mean, it's with golfers.
Beach photos.
Yeah. If I was there more. Just no family
fishing photos.
No, yeah, I'm good with that.
Right?
No family photos with toddlers.
Hey, everybody likes what they like, right?
Yeah.
You like taking outdoor photos. Yeah. No family photos. No worries.
No, I see these, like, it's a skill set to be able to photograph families, like to be able to
patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And listen.
I have more patience the older I've gotten.
I think I have less.
I think you are the anomaly there.
Yeah. Yes. Because I do believe that my patient, Haley and I had this conversation last night. God knew what he was doing when we got married so young and had our kids so young. Because if we would have waited, I don't think I would have had kids. Like, not me, like I wouldn't have the patience.
Yeah, it's kind of better to have the kids when you really don't know.
Yeah, like
right? I think is what you're saying.
Yes, I think because I didn't know what annoyed the shit out of me.
Yeah,
and now I know what annoys the shit out of me. So,
do you think your kids played a part in that in your development of that annoyance?
I have no idea what we did right in life to like get kids that were so easy. But both of our kids were pretty dang easy young. Like as far as like just acting right.
Well, it's just who you guys are, your demeanor, and then your togetherness as a couple, probably, right? It's a little bit of all of that.
And Haley's the disciplinarian. Who's bad copping with you guys?
My wife does.
Stephanie's the bad cop.
Until the hammer needs to be put down.
Oh, Jason's the hammer dropper.
And not to get off on a tangent, but you've been married the same length I have. You and Haley have had those conversations about, I'm sure, hey, Chad, I need you to step in here or do this or do that, or I need you to back me up on this.
It's usually the look.
It's just the look.
It's the look. Like,
well, you know what I'm talking about. Like,
if you don't kill him, I'm going to kill him.
So I know personally when I get that look or get the grit teeth in, you know that, okay, it's time for me to step up.
It's usually an octave in her voice.
Yeah.
That's when
that's your trigger.
I'm like, oh,
we got to know our triggers.
5-alarm fire.
Well, let's get our guest introduced today. Erika is with us, Erika Hedtcke with Cumberland Prosthetics, right?
Yep.
Did I say that right?
You did, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today, Erika. We appreciate you coming on with us.
Of course, happy to be here.
We've got Erika. We've got Erika on record now, so we can find out everything that we've ever wanted to know about Matt.
Erika was a customer before.
Exactly.
That's true.
Glint in your eye.
That's true.
Yeah. Hey, before we get too deep in this thing, Erika is already going to be the guest of the year because I think she's the first guest to show up after having some surgery and being here with a smile on and does not look like she's had any kind of surgery. So, major props to her for.
Yes.
I told her when we were walking in, I was like, we could have rescheduled this or.
Well, I asked, I think, Matt a couple of times leading up to this. Are we good?
Yeah.
Just giving the door open for him to say, hey, let's maybe push it off or whatever. So.
Well, I go back to work half days next week, so this was the test. And
Good
I did take a
okay.
nap after I showered this morning on the way here, but we
Power nap.
We did.
Guest of the year so far. Save the. No offense to the other guests, but they didn't show up after surgery.
I mean,
That's
That we know
true.
of.
I mean,
That we know of.
that we know of. That we know of. Erika plays hurt.
So I'm trying to think of the first time that I met Erika. I'm guessing it was at our charity event, maybe.
I
Was that
believe so.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple years ago,
Casino night.
casino night.
Yeah.
Erika came with Matt at that time. Were you guys maybe married or just got
Maybe
married?
just got married, maybe?
Or you were planning for it
I
possibly?
think this was in the fall, and we got married in the spring.
Okay. That's
Blissful.
That sounds about
They
right.
were still blissfully
Yeah.
newlywed.
yeah. Well, it's cool today because our producer obviously is Matt. Matt, Erika are married, so we're gonna get as much as we can out of Erika about Matt. So that's the theme of the show today, right, Chad?
Yeah. So Jason and I have a pretty open dialogue. I think Matt's on. Maybe it's just Jason and I on it on our teams messaging back and forth. And Jason's like, "What about these topics?" And I'm like, "Look, what Erika does for a living is interesting enough. I think that's going to fill up a ton of time just talking about Erika's business and what she does. But we also have the Matt dirt."
Does that make me the guest of the year?
No.
No, not at all. Not at all.
How about the combo guest of the year?
Yeah.
How about that?
We
By
could have
association.
put the producer on the couch as well. We might have to do that. Put him on the hot seat here in a while.
That's true.
I
Bring
think
him over to the seat on the rapid fire.
Joe
Yeah.
Rogan's producer gets a camera, so
Yeah, I'm in on that. Matt's
Yeah.
a good looking enough guy that
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
can have a camera.
I'll take that as a compliment since I cut his hair.
You cut his hair?
Yeah, I was like, I think I can do that. And so we just started practicing. I was like, worst case, he wears a hat. So we'll grow it back out and try again.
Good for you.
Sign me up. Let me know when the next cutting session
Yeah.
is.
We'll have
The good thing is that if I mess up for him, that's different than somebody else.
I've cut her hair.
Yeah, he has cut mine before too.
there is mark that down as
She trusts you a lot.
Yes, and things that Chad's wife will never allow him to do is cut her hair.
Well,
I was scared shitless.
Yeah, I would be
He
too.
just had to cut a straight line. That was it. And
That's
my
the
hair
key.
was so long. I was like, I just need a trim. I hate paying for a haircut in Nashville. The fact that you have to pay $100 to get your hair cut
yeah.
is insane. And
My mom's been
You can
cutting
take
my
the-
hair since I was a kid, but she's retiring
So you got to get one.
the end of this year.
Yeah.
Like she's done, and
She's
I'm not
even
gonna. I'm not gonna ask her, hey, can you cut your baby boy's hair?
She's done with you as well. She bought you your own cup, and she's not going to cut your. She's going to still cut your hair.
No, I'm not gonna make her do that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask her to. So she's been cutting hair at her house for years now. She's got a hair studio
Yeah.
in one of the rooms in her house, but she's getting rid of everything. So
Oh, she's shutting it completely.
she's shutting it completely down. So I need a new hairstylist, a new barber. So if you guys got any recommendations, Erika.
Erika would be great. I vote that's a great segment for the podcast. Is Erika cuts hair?
that could be a hilarious video content.
Yeah, Erika cuts hair today.
And so Erika, you're from. I heard you and Chad talking.
Yeah.
You're from Arkansas originally, right?
I was born in California, raised in Arkansas. And,
Okay.
yeah, moved temporarily to Indiana after I graduated college, and then got offered the job here and moved to Nashville.
What drew you into Indiana? What took you there?
So in college, I worked as kind of like an eye nurse. I got certified in assisting for teching for ophthalmology and optometry. That's where I fell in love with eyes. And then I thought the next step was just med school because if I love eyes this much and I'm like just out of college. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Until I looked into how much like debt you go into for medical school.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't sure if I was as passionate about that field. I did apply to med school though. That's why I moved to Indiana. I really liked their optometry program. And I was just sent in my application and was like, something feels off. I don't know if this is, like, I loved my job in college. I got to spend like 45 minutes with a patient and do all this diagnostic testing and have all these like inside jokes with them if they had to come back every week. And then I just didn't know if I wanted to be a doctor and be forced to see 50 to 100 patients a day, not get to spend that time with them. And I saw a How's It Made video on Facebook for my current job now. And I was like, that's amazing. How have I worked with eyes for 8 years and never thought about what happens when someone loses their eye? And I sent out an email to every ocularist in the US, and 2 people emailed me back. One let me shadow, and that was in Nashville. Went and shadowed, got offered a job a week later, picked up and moved. So I pulled my med school application, and I was in Indiana only for 8 months, and then I moved to Nashville.
Tell us what you do.
I'm an
Yeah, and I was gonna.
Yeah.
What's an ocular? What oculist?
Ocularist.
Or ocularist.
Easy for you to say.
All I can think about is Oculus.
Jason's gaming.
I mean, it's in the same realm,
Yeah.
but I am an ocularist. It is the worst job if you have a list because you have to say ocularist, prosthesis, all the things that.
I would suck at that.
Yeah.
Listen, before you go into ocular, you don't sound like you're from Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah, really. Like
That's
I
the
still
first.
you can still hear East Tennessee a lot of times. Some things I say, as Matt nods. You have a very professional tone, and I don't hear not that Arkansas is not
Chad,
professional, but
you can change your tone.
sometimes
You've been known to.
Sometimes you got to. A few beers and it comes out.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
mine does too. And Matt says when I go back home to visit family in Arkansas, my Arkansas shows a lot.
Yeah, your Arkansas shows. So ocularist,
Yes.
what is that?
So I make prosthetic eyes. So they are custom to each patient, whether they lost their eye from cancer or an accident, trauma, any nature of them losing their eye, they come to us and we make them a new one.
What goes into that?
So it's an all-day process. So somebody will have a surgery when they've lost their eye, and then it takes 6 to 8 weeks to heal. Essentially, 2/3 of the space of your eye socket is replaced with an implant. It's a spherical implant. And then they leave 1/3 of that space for us to make the prosthetic. It couldn't fill that whole space, or it'd be too heavy, and it would just symmetrically, it would be too weighted in the face.
So you're only covering 1/3 of the space.
And it also creates kind of a ball and socket type of fit. So because there's a spherical implant in there, the muscles are actually sewn to that implant, so you still have movement. And then we create like a really big contact that will suction almost over that implant, and that's what creates movement. So these eyes don't look artificial because they have conversational movement. So when you're just talking to somebody and looking around casually like you do when you talk, these eyes move like that too, unless they had trauma where maybe their face was damaged or something from like a car wreck. But the average patient has full movement. So when they step into our office, we sit them down, explain to them kind of how the whole day will go. I get to spend like 6 to 8 hours a day with these people, which most of the time is a blessing. Sometimes it's a lot.
We feel the same about Matt.
Yeah.
So you really get to know the people.
You do.
Yeah.
And it's 3 segments. So the first part takes about an hour and a half. That's the fitting process. If you remember when you would go to the dentist as a kid and you'd have to bite into that like pink fluoride,
Yes.
or not fluoride, but that
Clay
pink.
stuff. Yeah.
So that impression material is the same thing that we actually squirt into the eye socket to pick up every crevice of that 1/3 of the space left. It's not flavored though. You don't want peppermint in your eyeball. That might burn.
Does a patient, question for you on that, does a patient that loses an eye and it heals, right, and they have this 2/3 thing in their eye, what's that called again, before you get
So that's their implant.
their implant? You know, if our normal eye, if we have 2 eyeballs like you and I have today, something gets in our eye, we're like, try to flush it out, it hurts.
Right.
Did they have the same feeling after this occurs?
So there's two types of surgeries you can have. One is essentially where if it was just an accident, it's nothing that could be cancerous or an infection that they're worried about. What they will do is essentially cut out the colored part of your eye, scoop out all the contents, put the implant into that space. That way they don't have to detach the muscles or anything like that. And then they sew it up straight across. So it's like a horizontal suture. That's called an evisceration. And with that, most of the nerve endings are in your cornea, which is in the front part of the colored part of your eye. So you don't have any of that. And it actually, when you look into a socket, it looks kind of like the tissue in your mouth, that like little bit of pink. It's very similar tissue to like the inside of your lip. And that's what the inside of the eye socket will look like, which is I'm so used to it. I forget that this is not normal for everybody to see. And then at the other version of surgery, if it's cancerous, they will remove the entire eye. So that way there's no trace of like that cancer moving to somewhere in the body, the infection, things like that. And it looks the same from the presentation of if just looking into an eye socket. It's just a different surgical technique that they will do to remove the eye.
I'm so intrigued.
So what's the percentage of what you guys do from? I'm coming in as a patient. I want it to look like a normal eye, normal eyeball, versus I want to have something with like an American flag on it or sports team or something like. Do you guys get those requests and do that too?
We do. As TikTok has become more popular, we are now getting a lot more. We call them like novelty eyes or non-traditional eyes. And we have, so in the day, we start with that impression, the fitting part. And then we create a wax pattern out of that, kind of whittle on it, get the alignment, all of that right. Then they get a 2-hour break. And when they come back, we paint it. And most of the time, somebody wants to look normal as in matching the other eye.
Matching the other eye.
They don't want to draw attention to the fact that something has happened. Some people don't even let their spouse see them without the eye in because they have to grieve. It's a huge process they have to go through when they lose the eye. But on the other sense, you have somebody that feels like everybody is already staring at them because this happened. And so they're like, well, give me a skull and crossbones. Give me something for them to really look at if people are going to be looking at me. And it's an interesting, you can kind of see, they will ask for a non-traditional eye. And then as you watch them grow and emotionally heal from everything, then they come back and then they'll come in and they want a regular one. Or you get kids, with kids being homeschooled a lot more after COVID. A lot of parents are like, okay, since you're not going into school, you can have a fun eye that you can wear, like as long as you have a regular one on the side in case we take family photos or something like that.
When you go to church, you got to put your put the church eye in.
So it's as easy as popping it out and putting another one in?
Essentially like changing a contact. You don't want to remove them that often because think about you get an eyelash in your eye.
That's where I was going to go.
And your eye waters because it's trying to protect itself and kick out that eyelash because it's a foreign body. Your body will treat the artificial eye as a foreign body. You have to wear it a few days for your body to go, okay, this isn't leaving, this is natural, and it kind of accepts it.
So
into the eye socket.
So a patient would sleep in it?
Yeah,
also?
they wear it 24/7.
24/7. There's no like lubricating the eye or any.
We do. You automatically, with losing an eye, you will have more dryness.
Yes.
More birthdays you have. You guys, all of us will have to use artificial tears just because of that as well. So we recommend artificial tears, and then we do have a silicone based and then a vitamin E aloe vera based lubricating oil that they can put on the eye at night. Just to kind of help keep it a little more comfortable. But everybody's different. Everybody's body chemistry is different, what they need for that.
Is it typical or normal that they will not cry anymore or be able to cry out of that eye once it's
if the
replaced?
eye itself was removed and there was no trauma to like the lids or the face, everything is still intact. Your tear ducts are still intact.
Okay.
So you will have all the same reflexes of crying versus lubricating, the same tears that's on the other side.
Gotcha.
So you do run into when say they had a car accident and they actually lost part of their lids.
Yeah.
Then in that case, maybe the lids don't even close anymore. So that's a whole nother ball game. So we have to make sure that eye is as tight as possible to not allow air movement. If the eye is moving around in there because it gets too loose, then it creates irritation. That same foreign body sensation starts and it will start watering and things like that.
Gotcha.
So
are we asking the normal questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't asked if you can see out of it yet. I get that a lot.
I mean, I would hope that we didn't ask. Yeah.
But the funny
Well, that's
part,
that's a good point though. That might be funny, but with technology advancements, right?
Maybe.
I mean, it could happen one day.
it's a very complicated system in the eye with the optic nerve. The way that it is entwined to your brain is a very complicated process.
Yeah.
They have, I believe it was a successful first eye transplant, like whole eye transplant to a veteran in Arkansas. They put somebody else's donor eye in. He doesn't have vision, but he has like
Light.
the normal processes of like his tears. It is a real organ in there that like
Okay.
it's working with, but they can't
Yeah.
make it see.
Yeah.
So it's just, he doesn't have to worry about the maintenance of changing an eye. We do make a new eye every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Kids, if I see like a 2-week-old, I'm giving them a new shape every 2 to 5 weeks so that it helps their face grow symmetrically with the other side. So if you have a real organ in there, then you don't have to worry about like the maintenance of that.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we know a little bit about an ocularist, I said it right.
You
didn't
did
I?
it, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned going to school in Indiana. Erika, take us back to Erika going to Arkansas State in Jonesboro. Like, there's got to be a little bit of art involved in the eye. It's not just a medical practice. Like, if you follow Erika on social media, Erika will post pictures and things of eyes, and there is definite art to it. So, is there a little bit of that in the background, or?
There is. Growing up, I was very artistic. I would draw or paint or craft, anything that I could get my hands on to kind of make. I also grew up, my dad loves this part, I grew up in the garage with him. We built cars. We actually did drag racing and things like that were very hands-on too.
Now her Arkansas is coming out.
Yeah, that was very fun.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with the medical part of eyes. And when I found this job, it was what I loved about nerding out about the science of eyes. It was what I loved about the psychological aspect of dealing with patients. But then I got to bring in all that artsy and crafty parts of what I grew up with.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I get to, like, we paint these eyes by hand in front of the patient so that they match. And then I get to go into our lab and I get to play with not play. It feels like play.
She's like,
my job. But like, so I get to work with like knives and alcohol torches and wrenches. And
Are you
like,
painting yourself? Mm-hmm. You are? Okay.
Yeah. So we do everything from the sculpting, creating, to the painting, to the polishing at the end of the day. And I get to work with all these tools. Some of them are the same things I've worked on cars with my dad with. So when I first started, I would call him, like, I get to use this tool. I don't know what the name is still, but I know.
But I know what it looks like.
Yeah, I know how to use it and I know how to make it. So that was kind of a full circle of everything I did growing up. I did have to go back to a little bit of art, like school, like complementary colors. If I mixed this, because we use acrylic pigments to paint. We create our own base that we mix, which is like liquid into the acrylic pigments to make different values, stronger, less, like things like that. But you have to go, okay, if I paint this eye and it looks a little too red, then I need to put a little green over it to tone down that red. Or if I put it in the socket, what you paint is not what shows up once you put the clear acrylic back on top of it. The acrylic works like a prism effect and lightens the color. So you have to learn how to paint to that. You have to learn how to paint to, if their lid shadows a little bit more than the other side, then you have to paint something with the effect of understanding a shadow is going to be on it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of dentistry with the way that they have to work with a mirror backwards inside a mouth.
Yeah.
It's similar to that sense. And we do use the stuff they grind down on your teeth with when you go to the dentist. It's the same stuff. I'm using a Dremel tool to grind down the acrylic to polish it. So it's really full circle. And
So not everyone in your office can do the painting, I assume, or the artistic side of things.
we actually all do. When you
You all
get
do?
trained, you do everything from start to finish.
Oh, wow.
So if I'm
Okay.
introduced to a patient, I am doing absolutely everything for them. Some offices do it different. Some may be, this is a really strong painter, this is a really strong fitter, or more of a people person. There's so many different elements that go into this
Yeah.
that they may split it up and go, okay, I'm going to fit you, this person will paint you, and then we'll teamwork it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, every ocularist does everything from start to finish.
So I guess if I'm someone that wants to be in your profession, it sounds like I need to have a love of art almost,
A
right?
little bit.
You do. You need to have a little bit of art. The person that trained me says you have to have some MacGyverism because you have to
Yeah.
figure out, okay, this size too big for this flask. How do I do this? Or this lid is not responding with this shape. How do I manipulate and put like a little more volume on this area to cosmetically make it match but still comfortable? So it's a lot of things you have to kind of figure out with that. It's just every day is different. Every patient's different. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
But you do really need to be able to talk with the patient. You need to understand the psychological aspect. You're almost a therapist as well.
Yeah.
That's one reason we stick, for the most part, with one person, because they are sharing some of the deepest maybe
Yeah.
trauma they've went through or what they've dealt with. And then you have to, like, you're lucky enough to hear that. And then you have to be able to nurture them and care for them through the entire process.
Oh, that's a really specific person that you have to
Yeah.
look for to be part of your team, right?
It is.
That can do
It's-
all of those things. There's probably not very many people out there like that can handle it.
There's not a lot, even in the U.S. We have like 200 to 300. There's
Yeah.
only like 3 to 5 in the whole state of Tennessee, and that's just because we have some people that they're close to retirement. There's usually just a couple per
So
state.
speaking of that, what's your competition like? You mentioned 2 or 3 in Tennessee. Are you talking about facilities, like other places, or actual
Ocularist.
ocularists like yourself?
I'm going to keep saying it just so everybody knows.
I have to
But
continue to say it to get it
but I
right.
can say it.
Ocularist.
Yeah.
So we are lucky. So backing up just a little bit, to get into this field, I
Yeah.
was told it's kind of like the mafia. Like, it is hard to get into. It's normally kept in the family. People want to train their kids and their kids or their grandkids.
Okay.
So trying to find somebody that would take you in was very difficult. And then it is a 5-year apprenticeship or internship where you are working from day one. You start doing the process. And after you've had 10,000 hours, then you take exams and you do boards, things like that, to prove that you can do this job. But in our office, we had, when I first started, there was a male and a female. The female had just lost her intern, which is how I was able to sneak in. The other 2 was a gentleman who was close to retirement. He had trained somebody to take over his half of the company. That's generally how it goes. So we at one point had 4 ocularists in one building, which is the most in, I would say, all the surrounding states. Like, you don't normally have 4 practicing ocularists in one building. It's generally 1 ocularist and, say, an insurance person or an office manager. So we were kind of a rarity in that sense. There is one other person in Nashville who I believe he works solo. And then there's somebody in Memphis. But we all have travel locations in order to, there's a need that,
Yeah.
there's a big need. We make on average 1 to 2 eyes a day per ocularist. So if you think about that, that's a lot of people walking around that you probably have no idea
Absolutely.
they're wearing one. We have 8 satellite locations that we go to, sometimes once a week, monthly, quarterly, just to service the need all around the surrounding states. We go to Mississippi, Kentucky, here.
So you're not really trying to get customers to come from Ohio down to you. You're trying to get to them with that satellite location.
Yes.
Right.
And there, you also have aging populations aren't as apt to want to come to Nashville and deal with
Yeah.
the traffic. So we do our best to get out to people. Some locations we may only do a cleaning, so we can fit in like 15 to 20 people. Cleanings take like 15 minutes. So we can knock all that out and save them the drive, and then maybe they only have to drive to Nashville every 5 years for a new eye.
Okay. I know for medical care, right? If we know that there's a great heart surgeon in Houston or
Yeah.
cancer person in Chicago, we'll travel to them, right?
Yeah, and they do travel to us. When somebody makes you your first eye, you create a bond and an emotional tie that when people move, they will fly back to see you every 5 years. They may let another ocularist clean it, but they feel very attached to you. They may travel. We have people from New York, California, all different states that come in to see us because they feel that bond and that's who they trust.
Erika, is this typically, I know with healthcare, insurance is probably a biggest piece of the puzzle or like one of the biggest roadblocks. In most cases, is insurance covering prosthetic?
Most people don't know that it will cover because it is medically necessary. It's not just a cosmetic thing. You need something to protect the tissue inside your socket. That immediately goes back to your brain. You want to protect that as well. You also have the facial symmetry. When you have something in there that keeps everything kind of aging the way it should. So it is covered. Generally, you have it's 80% covered by your primary insurance. If you don't have a secondary, then you'll have to pay the 20%, things like that. But insurance does make it very difficult because they don't understand what we do. I get a lot of denials for claims where they go, have you tried giving them glasses first? And I'm like, you didn't read what I submitted because they don't have an eye. And I have to send some of the silliest letters back to an insurance company. We don't accept all insurances because of that. Because if they don't pay a lot for it at all, a lot of ocularists are private and only do cash because they don't pay for it. My heart
or you don't want to deal with insurance, right? All the claims, like you mentioned.
Exactly.
Right?
Like if it takes me 4 months to get paid and fight your insurance 7 times, then it's
not
not
worth
worth our time. But at the same time, I can't let a child go without an eye. So we will always accept Medicaid and things like that just because I want that child to at least have something.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
What do you prosthetics in general? What you've been doing this for several years now. What kind of technology changes have you seen in the business, and what do you see coming?
Great question. I actually thought about this. I was like, this is a tech podcast.
They're going to ask.
I got to think about the tech. So when I first started 6 years ago, it was being introduced 3D printing. So when we squirt that impression material in the very beginning of the day, we have a shape that is like 2 millimeters thick. It has holes all in it, and then it has a tube on the front of it so that we can squirt that material through that tube into the socket without it coming back out at us. So usually you would make those trays by hand. You have a solid piece of acrylic that you have to drill out and polish and drill the holes and create a tube and attach it. And it's very tedious. With 3D printing, they were able to take a shape that you love, print it, and then print the inverse so you can do a right eye or a left eye. Some people are getting into trying to 3D print like the entire eye or an iris button, which is the colored part of the eye that is like made separately and embedded into the eye. There's just a few things that I think the tech is great for tools. It is making us more efficient and making us better tools to use. But when you 3D print an entire eye, they haven't made a device yet that you can insert in the socket that is small enough to understand there's shadows in there. So I have a friend who wears a prosthetic eye herself, and her mom's a dentist, and so she took that scanner that they use to scan your mouth for like Invisalign, and she put it in her socket to like scan it, and that's the biggest takeaway, was that it couldn't see the shadows and the different crevices, so the eye that it created didn't fit nearly well enough. So there's still a lot of advances to be made. In anaplastology, which is prosthetic anything, ears, fingers, whole facial prosthetics, things like that, it has been super beneficial. I have a friend at Johns Hopkins who will use it to create, like if someone's missing their eyelids, their nose, half their mouth, they can actually scan that person's face, print out a model that they can then put into wax and kind of whittle on and get to where it would match on both sides. And that's super interesting because he will still make the eye the way we do it, old school, painted, and then you embed that into a piece that was 3D printed for the rest of the face. So.
Is there specific software that's being used for that to see like the 3D modeling and those kind of things that you guys are dealing with?
There is. I personally don't work with it, but every conference that we have continuing education twice a year, and he has given incredible lectures on the software. Like one software might be used to scan in the model. The next one might be used to create a piece that could adhere the prosthetic inside the body. They may have to like surgically put a magnet on the ear to be able to make the ear stay on. So I know there are separate like software programs for that. I just don't personally know what they are, but it blows my mind. I see it and I'm like, I love what I do. Some ocularists will go into, this is a stepping stone to get into making more. I just love what I do with the eyes. I want to focus on this and be as good as I can at it for people, but you can take it a lot of different places.
Yeah. That's awesome.
When you go to the continuing education, I think I heard you correctly. It's not just Ocularist. Sometimes it could be general prosthetic.
So we are, I'm a part of the American Society of Ocularists. So it is anybody who isn't practicing ocularist, maybe a retired ocularist or an intern that is going through the program to become one. In certain states, other countries, you have to be certified in order to practice. So we have like a Canadian society that is a part of ours that comes in order to get the certification to be able to practice in their country. You will get anaplastologists who, because the eye is separate from making ears and everything else, they will go through our program after they've already went through the anaplastology program to be able to do both. So anybody that shows up to ours is interested or actively practicing in our field. We do, so we have a spring and fall conference. In the fall, we match up with the ophthalmology programs that are going on. So we will have a joint session between the oculoplastic surgeons and ourselves because it's a very big, we have to work together. You have to make sure you have a good surgeon who is performing good technique to create, then you create a good eye for. So you have to work together. So I actually had the...
You know who the good surgeons are and the bad ones? Maybe?
There's
right?
You start to see some patterns after a while.
Yeah.
I did get to go sit in on a surgery, and it was the coolest but weirdest thing because I'm sitting with two surgeons, sitting on stools around somebody's head while they're removing someone's eye, and we're just chatting like we're at the dinner table. Like it just felt, it's
Non-medical?
Funny. Non-medical, but it's my everyday. It wasn't weird to me, and it was really cool because actively the surgeon, I love working with him because he was like, so if I do this, what does that look like when they've healed for you? Is that good for you? And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but this piece you put in afterwards actually doesn't work really well. Can you change that? And he immediately had his nurse order something else. And so when you have somebody that's receptive to that, especially a surgeon that we're not doctors, so that can be like patients think we're doctors, but other professions may not understand what we do or give it the merit or credit that it has. So for a surgeon to respect our opinion, it really means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I literally didn't even know it was a thing until a couple years ago.
Yeah, me neither.
Right? Like I had no idea.
Well, you mentioned earlier on, it's like the mafia to get into your profession almost, right? You got to know somebody. It's got to be a family type of thing or whatever. Do you see that changing at all in the future to more offices opening up and there being more people pulled into your profession?
I think so. There's a growing need. I think more people are open to wanting to bring in other people that might be a better fit than maybe what their child or family is. And I think you're seeing a lot of families not put as much weight on wanting to continue doing something maybe they don't love just because their dad did it. Yeah. So you're seeing some growth there. I think there's a change in some of the newer generations of used to be very competitive. So you had to protect your state and your office and things like that. And I think it seems like we're a lot more collaborative lately. Like I am happy to do maybe all the cleanings if they feel comfortable working with this other person to make the eye, and we can work together to give the best care for the patient instead of worrying about just, can I survive? I need all these patients to survive. Yeah. Like if they don't come to me, then I can't, my company won't work. Yeah. So I think that is really special that we are growing in that sense. And I think overall it's the patients understand and they'll come back more often because they should, it full circle. You can make more money to survive because they understand we're doing the best for them.
What's the business like for you all? Are you all have a backlog? Or are you waiting for business at certain times?
So we go through seasons, just like anything else. Like insurance deductibles play a big part. So some people may wait till the end of the year when their deductible is closer to being met to come in and see us, so that's less out of pocket. For travel locations, we do have like a wait list because we only go there maybe once a month or once a week, and so that stays pretty constant. In the Nashville office, I'd say it fluctuates. Beginning of the year is normally a little slower, but we have noticed even our slow period picking up. We've been pretty constant for, I'd say, the last 2 years. It's one more benefit of if I wanted to train in this field and then just go open up a shop, you have to have that relationship with the surgeon
Yeah.
for the referral base to have patients. So that's another reason if you find an ocularist to trade you, and the goal is that you will buy out their company or take over their patients, then you have a guaranteed relationship. Also,
Okay.
as you do your training, so like from day one, I was meeting the person that trained me's patients. So they are already comfortable with me. So when she does retire, it's more likely that they will continue seeing me because they know who I am, they trust me.
It's a little more
things like that.
built in.
Yeah, exactly. And fun fact, none of us are related, the 4 that started in my practice. 3 of us were from Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah, we got there and it was...
So that helped you out a little bit, maybe Arkansas on the resume,
They
right?
didn't really even know it until
Okay.
right
That's
after
so
I got
funny.
here. But
Well, they were sold as soon as they knew you
Yeah.
were from Arkansas.
Erica, so help us, I guess, a little bit. Are there people out there that need your services that they don't know it exists?
definitely. We also have a lot of people who say maybe their grandfather lost an eye in the war, great-grandfather, and back then, in some situations or maybe other countries where you don't have access to it, there would be a box of eyes, all different sizes and colors, and they would just pick the one that fit the best and look the closest color and pop it in. And that's what they wore, and they thought that that's what they had forever. They didn't think they actually could be custom or they could look real. So
Yeah.
they don't realize there is a lack of information in that area. So we are getting more patients that have been wearing the same eye for
Yeah.
50 years. It doesn't look as good because they're like, well, my grandfather only had one eye, or they don't realize that there's maintenance and upkeep and how good they can feel and look. And
How could that message be better delivered? Like, I don't know, is it through through optometrist? Is it like, where are these people going today that they're going to, it could be somebody that this happened to, 20 years ago. And if the information's not there, where could they go? Like, where would they get that information that there's somebody like Erika that can make it better?
that's where it really, so in medical school for optometry and ophthalmology, unless you go into the residency or the program
Yeah.
of like removing an eye, it's not really taught. Even if you're a surgeon that removes the eye, I've been told that the education is like maybe A class about prosthetics. So it's not widely informed to even
Yeah.
doctors that that's available. And if it is, like they know that prosthetics exist, they might not know where to send you to because there's not that many per state. So we do have a website of our entire society where you can search by state and see where somebody is. We've been trying our best to use social media as a tool to outreach. A lot of younger generations are going, hey, Dad, I found somebody that
Did you
can
know?
replace that eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you know you should have this more often?
Yeah.
We will get a lot of patients from, say, a nursing home where maybe
Yeah.
they have memory issues and their child will bring them in. And I'm like, okay, I want to see you back in 6 months. And they're like, what? Did you know you had to come back in 6 months? They had no idea. And so we are seeing an increase in care
That's good.
we're able to give to people. But it's a big deal to just work with the doctors, make sure that they know you exist and you're here. We're constantly sending out pamphlets and cards and letting doctors know that, hey, we're here for this service. Please at least send them over for a consultation so we can let them know what's changed, that we are.
Yeah, it's got to be like
Here for them.
90% of your business probably, right, is doctor referrals?
For the
Or
most
maybe
part.
more. Yeah.
Social media has helped a lot, but for the most part, you want to get in immediately and get something in the socket, because if you don't have anything in there, the area can close up. And so then from there, we are having to stretch out that area, maybe increasing an acrylic piece, not even an eye. Sometimes you can't even fit a painted eye in there. You just have to put something clear in there.
Yeah.
That increases every few months to stretch that tissue back out. They may have to have surgery, but once you've had more than one, things don't always heal exactly the way it's supposed to. So it's very important to see them immediately.
So you mentioned having partnership in your company. You're working on becoming a business owner or part owner, right? Is that part of the process?
It is. That was one thing that was amazing, but also a little terrifying, is that when I got offered the job, they were like, okay, we're going to train you with the
Yeah.
expectation that as long as it goes well, you will take over 50%, like that person's company.
Yeah.
And as amazing as that sounded, it was also like, whew, 23 and I'm committed.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Now you're part of the mafia too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Pulled out the knife.
She married into the mafia.
So I did recently buy 10% of the company now that I am certified. And then in spring of 2026, I will buy the other 40% to be half business owner. So it's wild. By the age of 30, I owned a company. I've had a hysterectomy, doing all the things. Like this, this is a big year.
That's so exciting though, Erika, too, because and we see that from our seat and what we do with consulting for technology is there are so many business owners that you never necessarily set out to be a business owner. You just want to do what you're good at, right? And then hopefully the other stuff takes care of itself. So it's you're in a unique position to where you're an ocularist. Mm-hmm. I wish it was a drinking game.
Yeah.
People had to drink every time we said it. But you have also had to become a business owner through the process. Which of the two is easier?
So I was very lucky when I worked with over 40 different surgeons and optometrists when I was a technician. I actually helped one new company kind of start, so I got to see what it took to negotiate contracts with insurances and kind of run the business. I've done the billing and all of that before, so that really set me apart coming into this field of I already knew the business and knew it was going to be a small business. I actually enjoy that. I enjoy the break. Like it's nice to, if I've spent 3 days straight with maybe a kid that is kicking and screaming and it's sad and traumatic and all of that, it's nice to be able to go sit down maybe for half a day and do all of the billing. I don't love it because the insurance company part is awful, but it is...
Gives you a break,
Yeah,
right?
and there's a freedom to knowing that like I get to kind of be a part of where that goes, what we do from a company standpoint, what we're involved in, how we bill, days off. We can take bankers' holidays and we're not bankers. Like there's just so many things that is a big blessing to being a business owner, but also I can see how it's also terrifying because you are the one to pay employees' salaries and keep it afloat, and also having to be the one to see all of the patients and handle that workload. And so that it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot on your plate to have to do everything you're doing, the painting, right? The consultation. And then at the end of the day, payroll and all those things too, right?
Yeah.
Like you say.
Thankfully, I don't do payroll yet, but I do all the billing for our office. So if I don't send out the invoices, then they don't get paid. So it's, I don't know that I would love just being an ocularist from the making standpoint, because I do really love the freedom and the break of the billing and everything, even though I don't necessarily love billing.
It takes a special, special person to be able to wear more hats. Sometimes in previous, we spent a lot of time, or I spent a lot of time at Vanderbilt working with a lot of very smart people, and they were really good at being surgeons,
Right.
but they weren't necessarily good business people. So,
and you do have a lot of, so some of the older generations that are retiring now who have trained an intern may have never taught that person how to do the billing or how to even run a business. And they'll be like, oh, you got your certification? Great, I'm retiring, I'm out.
See ya.
And I've had a few people call me and like, can you teach me how to bill? They still use a typewriter. And there are still some companies that use a typewriter for these forms and mail them into insurance companies. And we're trying to change that, make more business-focused lectures and how to bill, and just be more open with sharing, hey, we all need to succeed. How can we do this? And share tips and tricks.
And you have to deal with HIPAA too, right? Mm-hmm. Because you are medical and you're dealing with insurance. Yeah. That's another facet. Possible audits and everything that evolves around HIPAA.
And Medicare, we are currently recertifying. You have to recertify every few years for Medicare. And it's a big deal if you don't get approved, then all these patients you've been seeing, you won't get paid for. And that's a tough line of you become connected to these patients, you want to help them, but you have to get paid to keep helping them.
Right.
So that's a big
Yeah, it could be
Otherwise-
devastating for a company, a small business, right? If you had $100,000 of funds you were supposed to get in through Medicare, that didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
It still blows me away that it's like I don't know how you don't know that it's a thing. Like but then again, like you look at Erika's social media and there's like pictures of, I don't see how you paint it. Like the eye is so unique. And some of the photos, we got to pop these up in the, she brought.
I did bring some, but I also have photos that we can use to go through.
Yes.
And I have a very funny story. I don't know if my brother knows I tell everybody this, but
This is the first show and tell we've had.
Yeah.
so when I first started in this field, I was needing to practice painting because you've got to do it a lot. At this point, I think I've painted close to 500 eyes, and there's still things I'm learning. But I had my brother come in to model for me.
To model?
Because I was needing to practice painting in front of a live person so I could get comfortable doing that in front of a patient. And so my brother was in for like the holidays or something, and he came in and he sits down in the chair, and then he's like, he takes a deep breath, and then he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, I'm ready." And I was like, "Ready for what?" And he was like, "You can take my eye out to paint it." And I was like,
That's not how it works.
"You are a grown-up." And you thought, I'm not a doctor. You were going to trust me to remove your eye somehow and paint it?
This is the actual prosthetic?
So those are real shapes.
Wow, that looks awesome. You did these?
And I've actually gotten a lot better because those were like 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
I don't know how you get better.
That actually looks a little bit like my eye right there.
And it says Jason on the top because that's my brother's name. So
Okay. Yeah, you got it looks so realistic, right? The blood, right? The veins.
The blood vessels
blood
are
vessels,
actually
yeah.
silk embroidery thread that we pull apart really thin and then use our painting medium without paint to kind of glue them to the eye. What I think the most difficult part to paint, and one of my favorites, is the sclera, the white part of your eye. Because if the eye is too white, that's how you know it's artificial.
fake.
It'll look like a doll's eye, like it's really bright. And our eyes may seem like they're white if we look at each other right now, but there's actually greens and blues and yellows and so many colors in there. It's really fun when you get somebody who's clearly partied all night and then they come in and they're like, "Please don't paint my eye to match this." But some of those, they come back and it doesn't look like that. Some, every single time they've come in for years, it looks like that.
Looks like they partied.
And so I'm like, I have to paint this darker or it will be noticeable that it is not real.
Well, people's eyes color, I know mine, speaking of myself, like my eye color changes throughout the day, throughout the week, the month, right? Like the level of my whiteness, right?
And that can be what you've ate, what you've drank, if you're tired.
Yeah, hydration,
What
all
you
those things, right?
Yeah.
What you smoked, yeah. So I'm assuming most people are like, okay, my eyes are not good today, but normally they're a little whiter.
Yes.
Can you give me on my best day?
Can you give me
right?
Getting your DMV picture taken.
Can you give me a high eye? Like
I've had some people who are like, I do smoke a lot or I do drink a lot. Can you make me two?
so that I can just pop that one in and be
Oh,
like, hey.
really? Okay.
So because we can't make it change. I mean, there's effects that we can do to the pupil to make it look like bigger when it's in darker light or smaller when you're in bright light. But as far as like the blood vessels and everything, they are
that's the
adjustable,
question.
but you can't come in every day and have us repaint that.
So the
That's-
pupil can appear smaller and larger
yeah, you
just
can,
because of the light.
yeah, correct. So we will paint like an exact size of circular pupil, and then we can shadow a little gray and black around that. So like when there's bright light on it, you can tell that that's a shadow and not the pupil, versus then when you're in darker light, that shadow looks darker, like your pupil got bigger.
That's amazing. It looks so real. Good job.
Thanks.
So how do you... Sorry, I'm so distracted. Bob the Builder is outside building a freaking clubhouse. And I've got the worst case of ADD. Matt, I think Matt's seen me like 15 times. Every time homeboy drops that hammer on the... I'm like,
Chad, you do get distracted easily.
oh, it's so bad.
It's just dramatic effect.
I was not a very good student. So there he goes.
Did you forget where you were going, Chad?
No, I know where I'm going, but
Okay.
like I'm literally fixated on this guy just wearing the deck out. I'm like, does he realize?
And balancing on the top of that ladder. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting for a little slip.
So
Yeah.
I had no idea that they were doing this part of the construction today.
Yeah, we have a construction crew outside. If you can't hear now you know. I feel like he should have been a guest.
Yeah.
Whatever his name
We
is.
should get them in.
Yeah. So when you're going to paint an eye or see a patient, how do you match the color? Do you photograph the good eye so that you can match it, or you just do it by, hey, Erika's eye
She does it by her
this
eye.
color blue.
So we have, in some cases where like maybe they're in a nursing home or they're in prison, we actually get a lot of inmates just because of like accidents there. They may not be able to come into the office or stay all day, so we can take color samples and photographs.
Okay.
It's not the most ideal because we will go, okay, here's an eye. I can like hold eyes up that are already made next to somebody to kind of gather what value of this color I need to paint. But for most patients, they are sitting right next to me, and I am just painting it in front of them, staring at them awkwardly, shining
Really?
lights on them. It's a very interesting dynamic at that part, because if you're not comfortable being stared at, I am looking at you all day long.
Yeah.
While you're talking, I might put the eye in and just watch you chat for a few minutes to see if it responds naturally like it's supposed to, or moves like it's supposed to.
Okay.
So it's almost intimate in that way of you were all up in their face. And sometimes I forget that. Like Matt and I will go out to a bar or to get dinner, and I'll see somebody with a cool color eye, and I'm just staring at him. And he's like, they think you're hitting on them. You got to stop. It's
Like a cool color, real eye.
real eye, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'd love to paint that. Or like I just get in a sense of like, I'm so used to eyes that I forget that not everyone stares that much or maybe keeps eye contact. Or I'll compliment people on eyes. I'm like, you have a gorgeous color. And they're just like, thanks.
Thanks.
Can you pick, with your experience, can you pick out a painted fake eye out of the crowd of people?
Yes, that
You
is
can?
now
Okay.
a new fun fact. Matt and I will be somewhere, and I'm like, that person wears a prosthetic.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because there aren't that many of us now or around. So to see somebody, it's like, there's a solid chance I might have made that, or did somebody
Yeah.
else?
Yeah.
Like, are they wearing an older one? So it's kind of a fun little game. Sometimes on our like company page for social media, I will play a fun game of spot the prosthetic, pick one, like which one you think is artificial.
Really?
And so that's always fun to see people guess. And when
You
they're
get it wrong?
yeah, when they get it wrong, I'm like, job well done. We do. Or sometimes our eyes look better than the real eye that they still have, because maybe they have a droopy eyelid over their real eye.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
We will match it as close as we can, but sometimes you can't recreate something like that. Or they maybe can't see out of, maybe one eye is still there, but they can't see out of it. It's calcified over, and it's not as cosmetically appealing, but they can't tolerate wearing an eye over their eye, because we do that in some cases. But maybe the other eye was removed. So everyone thinks they can see out of the prosthetic because it looks realistic.
Because it looks real.
Yeah.
What's the percentage of eyes? I want to say business, but these are people, right? What's the percentage of people that you see where you're doing one eye versus two? Are you doing two eyes a lot?
We are, and the
Okay.
fun part about two eyes is they can pick whatever color they want every time they get a new set. They
Yeah.
want to have purple eyes this time, or green eyes, things like that.
Okay.
Snake eyes.
They could. We've had cat eyes with the thin pupils and
Like
all
the
of that.
up and down thing.
Yeah.
I would say maybe 70-30. 70% are one eye.
One eye. Okay.
Back in the day, so when you have a certain type of ocular cancer, back in the day it used to be you would always lose that eye because they just couldn't treat it well enough or quick enough by the time it was found. There's one cancer that it's a high chance if you have it, your kids, like 98% chance or something like that,
Oh, wow.
they will
Yeah.
have it. So when they know that, they can start treatment immediately. If it's in both eyes, they seem to be able to normally always save at least one. So when we
Okay.
see children, it might be that they did have
And that's happening a lot with children? Mm-hmm. Wow.
You can actually tell if, so microophthalmia is when somebody is born with a very, very tiny eye. It might be the size of like an eraser of a pencil. And you can actually see this in utero from ultrasounds and things like that. It could be related to other genetic anomalies, or it could just be a one-off thing. I mean, I'm truly blown away that any of us are considered normal the way you have to develop in the womb.
Yeah.
And they'll know immediately, and that's how we'll get kids at 1 week old, 2 weeks old, that we are fitting over that teeny tiny eye to keep their face symmetrical as they grow. Because, newborns are growing so quickly.
Yeah.
And those are some of my favorite, because you get to, like, I've only been there 6 years, but I'm already seeing kids, like,
that are
go
now
from,
6.
Yeah, and it's just like they're so big now, and I get to be a part of their life and their growth, and like you get really attached.
Because you're making them a new eye every when they're a
kids,
baby, it's like every 6 months or something, or
every few weeks for babies.
Every
we
few
are
weeks, wow.
Increasing the size until they are large enough to maybe put an eye in. And then we're even increasing that eye, because the eyes themselves are adjustable up till about 4.5 years of age. So if a patient comes in, they grew, or maybe they're older, and some of the fat, just like everywhere else in our body, it moves as we get older. So we need to fill in what their eyelids might have had. We just add acrylic to the eye that they are already wearing and fill that space in. So kids, we might replace every like 2 years. So I get to see them a lot. I'm seeing them every 6 months for a cleaning. Most all patients. So you feel like family, which is an interesting thing. Is like, I have some patients that like have my cell phone number because it's a baby that I need to keep track of. And it's funny, you'll have parents or patients that are like, I don't have my doctor's numbers anywhere else. I'm like, well, I'm not a doctor.
But they see you as a doctor because it's medical, right? Like
they do. And I have some people that call me Dr. Lady, or
they probably think
whatever,
you're a
like,
doctor, right? Or that would be their thought.
And I do correct them, and then they just can't say Ocularist, so they just keep saying
do you wear a lab coat?
She wears scrubs. She gets to wear scrubs to work.
Yeah, I did the lab coat route for a little while, like over nicer clothes, but like I said, I'm working with like kind of like muddy and flour and water and all these like materials that get you so dirty. And I'm just more comfortable in scrubs in case I gotta get in the floor with a kid and become his friend for a few hours or something. Like,
we vote scrubs. Scrubs is the way to go.
That's awesome. So cool to hear about what you do. I think the eyes in general is one of the most amazing parts of the human body.
Yeah.
So, you probably feel the same way since you work with them.
You remember our team's message earlier when you were like, had all these questions, and I responded, I think what Erika does is so interesting that we spent an hour talking about what Erika does, and I don't think we scratched the surface.
No,
So
probably haven't.
I forget how not normal this is, that I was so worried I wouldn't have enough to talk to you guys about, because like my job has become so normal. I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do.
I want to pat myself on the back because like this is one that I'm like, just what she does is so I guess the next question, the follow up to what you do, what have we not asked you that most people ask? Have we forgotten anything?
I don't think so, because like very commonly I get asked, can they see out of it?
Yeah.
Which in some ways it does actually make the sighted eye see better once they have an eye on the other side, because then they feel whole. And then also your eyes work together. If one's watering because there's not an eye in it, it's going to make the other one water. So like it does improve that. People don't know that they're handmade. They don't like painted by hand as well. They don't know that they could be made in one day. So we get that a lot, like a lot of those questions. But otherwise, I think you guys have hit most of it. I mean, I could nerd out for hours about it. But
What's the most, so we talked about, health issues. What's the most common injury and things that people could protect themselves from?
We see a lot of fireworks.
Okay.
You would think by now people would learn not to shoot a firework at their eye.
Fireworks.
We've had a couple running with scissors, running with screwdrivers, things like that.
Yeah.
It is. There are some stories I hear.
I get the feels on that.
Yeah, there are. Unfortunately, there's a lot of sad elements of maybe an attempted suicide and the recoil of the gun pulled forward. You have a lot of car accidents, airbags. I had one recently. A little plastic piece was stuck behind the airbag, and when it hit her in the face, it cut the eye, caused an infection, couldn't come back from.
Oof.
things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of infections also lead to it as well.
Yeah. So my dad, who is probably not going to listen but should listen, should wear his safety glasses when he is in his shop working on things.
Yes,
Okay.
I think we all take that for granted, right? When we're working on things, like grab the safety glasses.
Yeah. If we've taken one thing away from the show today, wear your safety glasses. Boom.
I
Put
am
your
a
safety glasses
Nazi
on.
about that. Like Matt will go mountain biking, and it terrifies me the amount of people
Yeah.
I would see who a tree would hit them in the face and they didn't
Yeah.
have safety glasses
Yep.
on. Like I do a lot of woodworking, and I may be barefoot in the garage, but I have my safety glasses on. Like that is
She might lose a toe.
Wait, you wear your safety glasses just going in the garage?
for woodworking. Yeah,
Oh,
like
okay.
if I'm
Yeah.
cutting something,
yeah.
I am There's a lot of people who get into this field because they did lose an eye themselves. Maybe
Really?
so you had a relationship with your ocularist growing up, and then once you were older, it just worked out that they needed an intern, and they have a whole different element of relating to the patient because
Yeah.
they're going through the
They
same
know.
thing. Yeah. So there's quite a high percentage of ocularists that wear it themselves.
Safety glasses with weed eating. Always do that.
Yes.
Mm.
a
I
lot
always
of-
get something like a rock, like get me right here. I'm like, oh.
Oh,
you know.
I got hit. Was it COVID? I hit a rock and hit myself in the lip, and it I thought I knocked my tooth out, but I didn't. I still got these things.
I do have a fun question for you guys.
Yeah.
If you had to wear a prosthetic, do you think you would have it painted to match? Or if you wanted non-traditional, what would you put on it?
Erica,
I would definitely go painted to match. Mine's easy. I would be symmetrical. I would want it to look
yeah,
the
I
same.
would too. I'm too. Who am I kidding? I'm too vain to.
You don't want Tennessee orange in your head?
Ooh. Maybe I could have a power tee.
Chad's like, yeah. Can you
One
put?
eye.
Can you put a little small power?
Just a
tee
little
over
power
here
tee over in the corner.
I
That would-
do. I did that for a Saints fan. So I put a little fleur-de-lis that looked like it was tattooed on the white part
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the side.
yeah.
So it matched, but then it had that fun element.
Yeah,
Of like,
I would put
Yeah.
maybe do like a little power tee like over in the corner.
You'd have like the jelly roll like tattoo coming over
That's
on
your
thigh.
version of the teardrop.
That's my version of
Teardrop, yeah.
teardrop, the power tee. Hey, look, man, I say we. I don't play on the football team, but they made the first college football playoff, like official expanded college football playoff. So
Yeah.
I'm in a happy mood.
By the time the show releases, we'll know if they won or not.
We will
So,
know if they won. We'll probably by the time this show will release, we'll know if they won a national title. Which I don't look. I think that my football team is playing with house money at this point. So
Yeah, absolutely.
typically we go. I think you good on questions?
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the
I think we can
Oculars?
go to rapid fire.
Just some
right?
fun. Well, we started off. This was the podium. Then we rapid fire, and our rapid fire never ends up rapid fire. And I almost love it because
Erica knows. She
Yeah.
is a dedicated
I have
podcast.
listened
Good.
to every episode, and I have laughed so hard because I'm like, you go off on tangents. It's
Yeah.
not quick.
it's not quick. I almost love that it's not because sometimes this part of the show we've gotten to know more about people than
Yeah.
the actual show. So if you don't mind, we'll ask some fun questions. And one of the ones that comes.
I can go. Can I go
Yeah,
first?
go hit it.
I want to ask her about something.
About that?
Erica,
If you steal mine, go.
Just remember, I have control over the mute button.
Go.
no, you go first. I'm just playing. You
No,
go.
I thought you were going to go first.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
Does iPhone or Android?
Android.
Why?
I used to be iPhone.
You look right here.
I used to be iPhone.
Did Matt
Okay.
And
convert
then
you to
I
Android?
No, I worked at
Okay.
Best Buy. I worked in tech I was at Best Buy for like 5
Okay.
years. I worked from computers to customer service to selling phones. And iPhone was easier at that time.
Yep.
But then I started seeing what Android could do for customization and photo quality and other things that I just fell in love with Android.
Okay.
And I know that's a huge deal.
So you were weird
Like-
before Matt.
I was weird before Matt.
Okay.
Android does have some better technology at times for sure, because Apple is a little later, but they make sure that things work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Within their
almost a more
ecosystem.
creative phone.
Yeah.
I think the iPhone and the Apple community, how it intertwines, is wonderful, especially
Yep.
for people that have the laptop.
Who are part
for
of the cult?
business. Yeah, that
Yeah.
have everything.
They called that a walled garden.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right in the middle of that garden.
I do hate some of both my coworkers have Apple computers and phones, but I'm the one that has to teach them how to use all of our software.
Oh, your software? Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to Google first before I go in there. How does an
How do I click?
How do I exit out of an Apple product before
Yeah.
I go?
Yeah. Jason and I are both, I'm like all up in that ecosystem.
All
so-
up in that.
Yeah. It's like, I'm that.
He's all up in that thing.
I don't know. Yeah. So
to your point, if you have not had a MacBook for at least a year,
yeah.
you really haven't grasped everything that it can do.
Yeah. I will tell you, Haley would. So Haley uses a computer at home, very little, and she is on a Windows computer for her job and all that. When she comes home and has to do something, she'll go up in the office and get on a Mac, and she's like just eye rolling and, oh, did you hear that podcast? Somebody's at the front door. And we see them. They look very business-like.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So she will come up and inevitably she's frustrated.
Yeah.
Like she's mad about something, and she's an iPhone, like the iPhone and everything, but she doesn't necessarily love it.
It's different with the computer.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I tried to convert her to a MacBook, and she's like, I don't like this thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
I did have to put an iPhone keyboard on my first or Android when I was texting because it was very hard to transition at first over to it.
yeah, that too. Learning the commands and all
We will
that.
accept you back into Apple land if you ever.
Hey, I think you should. I think you in technology. I think you should know and understand both. That's my thought.
I know that I don't want anything to do with Android.
I
Well,
will say a lot
Windows.
of patients will come on at the end of the day. They're like, "Can you also help me get my phone so I can get back home, or can you log into this or connect me?" And I can help them with that. I can't help them with Apple, but I would say more of my patients have Android,
Really?
but they are normally a little older.
Older.
Yeah.
Older and less cool.
Erika, besides, I got a question for you. Besides Nashville, Tennessee, and where you live today, where's your most favorite place in the world that you've been to or want to go to?
Jason says world because Matt and Erika are world travelers.
Yeah.
I will say there are places that I would love to explore in the U.S., but we went to Thailand for our honeymoon, and it was gorgeous. The people, the community, the spiritual elements, like everything there was just, it was so kind, forward first, recycling first. You're in a beautiful place. I would love to go back there. And I even saw a lot of people that needed eyes there. Ooh. And I was like, maybe we take a leave of absence for 6 months and it's a write-off. I can make all these people eyes and then come back.
Yeah.
So I would say for now, that is it. We recently went to Italy.
Open up a satellite office, right?
Yes. Yeah. We did go to Italy recently. And as much as I loved Europe, I still think Thailand so far is the winner.
Okay.
So.
Have you adopted the Milwaukee or the Wisconsin sports teams like Matt?
I did football for sure because we didn't have an NFL team in Arkansas. And I think the Packer family has
accepted you.
The best family I could have went into. It has been really fun to join that and to watch my family. I actually have some Packer fans in my family that now that I'm involved, we have a new relationship. That's been really cool.
Titans fans are jealous of Packers family, I think.
But we always have been. It has nothing to do with the current, the current state of the football program.
Yeah.
We did go to that game here in Nashville when the Packers played the Titans, and seeing more Packer fans in person at the game than Titans fans, the community and how well they travel was.
The Titans are almost like Vanderbilt.
Speaking of that, did y'all see the
The other team fills the stadium.
Did you see how empty the stadium was Sunday?
Yeah, it should be though.
It was so
the product
empty.
on the field is terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
You remember on this
And it was
podcast the after draft day whenever they drafted Will Levis and I was distraught.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's play that episode again. Fix that problem.
Erika, for you, date night with Matt.
Oh, perfect date. You don't have to go. This is
You're choosing one restaurant in town.
I asked
Okay.
Jason to ask this question.
this
so
is
I get it right.
PG-13.
You're choosing one restaurant in town. Okay. Give me your top favorite restaurant you want Matt to take you to.
Okay.
And are you doing seafood? Are you doing steak?
Now I feel like I have to answer correctly.
No. This is your pick. Erica's pick.
We don't frequent many restaurants twice. That's one thing we love about Nashville is always getting to try something new.
Yeah.
My favorite like genre or type of food is Thai food, but my favorite restaurant is Cafe Nona in I think it's Sylvan Park area for Italian. We go there every year for my birthday, and I found it when I moved here. I did all the restaurants on diners, drive-ins, and dives, and went around, and that was one of them. And I went once. Fell in love with it. Went 6 months later, and it's such a small little place. Like the waiter remembered me, and I feel
That's
like you
awesome.
don't find that at places anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's probably my go-to.
Matt has mentioned that about you loving that place because it's across the street from Poncho and Lefty's, right?
Yeah.
Which my family loves that place. So it's a good spot.
Favorite cocktail or wine, or what would you choose?
I like wine and then whiskey. So like those are the two. I will have beer, but beer doesn't love me as much as I'm getting older.
I feel you on that one. Same way.
That's when you know you're old, when you say, I have gout.
I do. So I can't
I
drink
can't have a beer. Yeah.
one every now and then.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I love wine with dinner.
Yeah.
I like a Cab or a Malbec for red, and then when we were in Italy, I fell in love with white wine just because it was so hot there and it was so refreshing during the day to have like a crisp glass
Yeah.
of white wine. And then we love doing like bourbon tours, whiskey tours, things like that. I actually love just on the rocks whiskey. Every now and then we'll have a cigar night and then I can't talk well. My throat's a little sore for the next few days.
Cigar night with a glass of
There you
whiskey.
go.
Yeah. There's a lot of times that like when I was dating here, I felt more manly than some of them.
That doesn't say a lot for Nashville. She said I felt more manly than the men in Nashville.
I told one guy I had my motorcycle license, and he was like, I would cry on the motorcycle. I was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, we're not gonna work. Yeah. Says the girl from Arkansas.
You and Matt hit it off instantly then, right?
Yeah, I am glad we didn't meet on a dating app. I don't know if I would have swiped on him. I don't know if he would have swiped on me or not. But it was funny that we like the same drinks. We like the same things.
Where'd you meet?
At church, actually. I walked in one day and saw him in the back. And I was like, you're not here for a man. You just moved to Nashville. Like,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
In the back doing what?
He was doing sound. He was running the sound.
The sound guy.
Yeah, and he had a Packer hoodie on as well. And after service, like we do this part where you have to like chat for 5 minutes with people. He went and found some M&Ms and came over for a reason to like say hi. I get somebody in my pew. I'm getting up to go to the bathroom, and they're like, "Hey, are you new here?" They're from Arkansas. They're an older couple. It was just like they could tell and started chatting.
That's nice.
Yeah, they invited me to join their small group. And I went for a few weeks, and I kept talking about this guy named Matt who was just like the kindest and always did everything for anybody. And I was like, well, he doesn't seem that great. He hasn't been to the small group once since I joined this church.
Evidently, he's not into serving the Lord.
Right.
But you were curious at that point. You had to find out for yourself, right?
Yeah, I think he added me on Facebook or something, and I pretended not to know exactly who he was from church.
Oh, that's a good one.
Then I was like, do you want to get dinner this Friday? And he's like, yeah. And then we both realized it was Valentine's Day without looking at the calendar. So our first...
Wait, you asked them to dinner first? Mm-hmm. Okay. Go, Erica.
There's a lot of...
Damn, son, I didn't know you had it like that.
He hates this part of the story, but we went on like 10 dates, and all I got was barely half hugs. And I was like, this man does not like me. But then he would text me the next day all these thoughtful things, restaurants to try, stuff like that. He said he wasn't seriously looking to date anybody, and I was like, that's fine, but you talk to me every day, and we've went on so many dates.
Yeah, we're dating.
And so after church one day, I was like, can you walk me to my car? And he said, sure. And then I said, can you kiss me? Because you've never done this. And he said, no, I have coffee breath, and this isn't how I envisioned our first kiss.
That is the most Matt, like knowing Matt, like if anybody, like if the people, they don't know Matt, right? Like there's a lot of people. Absolutely, that's what he said.
Yeah, he wants this perfect. He can't talk.
Yeah,
Curates these
that.
like moments and dates, and like he's
For
very
sure.
thoughtful and all of this. And
How'd that make you feel initially? And were
I
you?
thought I was done. I was
She
actually.
went, is it my breath?
And I was like, this is a weird, like, it was a turn on to watch him at church and all these things. And I was like, man, I like this guy. And I was like, I just screwed it up. I shouldn't have done that. I put my foot in my mouth. He's never going to like go on another date with me. And then we went on another date and he kissed me and the rest is history. So
That's awesome.
Matt pulled out the ultimate like hard to get card.
Yeah, he did.
Like that is a strategic move. That can go it's one way or the other. Either she is strung along and like I gotta have that guy.
well, he did tell me on the first date, I'm not drinking because I don't drink for the first 6 months of the year for like resetting his body, health stuff. And I was like, ooh, that's disciplined. I'm not looking to get married. I don't want to date anybody. I'm never having kids, like all these things. And I was like, okay, this is going well.
That sounds so much like Matt.
So everything aligned with you when he was
Matt's
saying
got a
that.
playbook. Matt's like, here's the playbook. If you can abide by these rules.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I do want to get married. I do want some of these things. And so I kept trying to go on dates with other people, and then none of them, I would still think about Matt. And I would even tell Matt about some of the dates. He'd tell me about dates. And at the end of the day, we just kept coming back to each other. And
She's like, I went on this date with this sissy ass dude from Nashville. The problem is obviously it worked out for you, but you didn't venture to the suburbs. All your people were Nashville people.
How do you know that?
So all these
she might have been dating suburbs.
All these sissy Nashville guys that couldn't ride the motorcycle and they, couldn't do this. Those people that did those things, they were in Lafayette. They were in Bethpage, Portland,
Gallatin,
G-Town,
Dixon.
Yeah.
yeah, but if I had met any of them to come to Nashville, they would be like, no, I'm not driving out there.
That's right. Yeah.
That's true.
So you got the perfect guy.
I did. It worked out. I
love it.
Yeah. But all back to the sports, yes. I told him, yes, I'll adopt your football team, adopt a baseball team because I wasn't fans of.
It was in your wedding vows.
I did. I said, I promise to support you and the Packers and the Brewers and the Nashville SC.
Okay, so you got Nashville SC for soccer.
Preds?
Mm-hmm.
Was the Preds
I
in there?
told him I like hockey, and so I was like,
Okay.
I love the Preds. I used to love going to the Memphis River Kings, pay like $10, and they would fight like crazy and slam into the glass. It was so fun to like.
What's your favorite sport to watch, Erika?
I think it's different from like I don't necessarily love watching sports on TV. I've gotten into football because I joined his fantasy league, and so that's made me like more invested. Otherwise, I will watch anything in person. Soccer. I like it from like Geodis. I love how fast paced it is. Like I don't like encores at concerts. I don't like breaks. I don't like all these quarters in football. So like soccer's perfect because it just runs 90 minutes.
You know when it's
through,
going to
and
end.
Yeah. It's just here's what you get, and so I don't know. I like basketball in person, hockey in person are probably like my favorite.
So basketball, or is it Milwaukee Bucks?
I support them now, but
Grizzlies?
I'm a Steph Curry fan more
Okay,
than
yeah.
like necessarily a team.
Yeah.
I had dated somebody that was a Heat fan for a while, and we actually went to Oklahoma and watched them play the Heat and be like, we were the only Miami Heat fans in like the whole stadium, it felt like. And so I love kind of the trash talk of being in somebody else's place.
So college football. You're from Arkansas.
I am, but I went to Arkansas State,
Yes.
not Fayetteville.
Yeah. So you're a Red Wolves
Yes, and I
Okay.
do think they were a better football team.
when you were there?
Yeah, it was funny. They always wanted to play Fayetteville, but
Yeah.
they would never agree, and we always said it was because they were scared they would lose to like the non-state school.
Yeah. Yeah. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Well, you mentioned going back to Thailand and spending time there. Your dream vacation or location that you've not been to?
We talked about earlier, I want to do the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
I want to hike through all that. I would love to hit all the state parks while riding our motorcycles and like camping off the side of them. That would be like the dream goal that I'm working towards. really anywhere I can hike. We want to
Yeah.
go to Japan and do some hiking and stuff out there. But it's kind of hard. Anywhere you go, vacations, you have to plan. Am I going to hike and bring all my gear and all of this stuff, or am I going
Right.
to go and relax?
Yeah.
Neither Matt and I'm lucky. Like, when you go on a vacation, there's like, in some couples, there's one that wants to sit and do nothing for a week and the other
Yeah.
one wants to go. Matt and I both can't sit still. So
Yeah.
my mom's traveled with us and she talks about how worn out she is anytime
She's
she
like, "I'm
spends
done."
yeah. She's like, I never would have seen half of these places
That's
if I
awesome.
didn't go with you guys.
Yeah.
But like, we get up in the morning and we walk everywhere. And so my dream is just like, favorite vacation, you get up, you find coffee somewhere, you walk to a fun brunch place, go maybe find a hike or a museum to do for a few hours, and just constantly hitting something else until you need to go home and crash.
Plenty of places to see then,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I can go and just sit on the beach and
I'm kind of in between. I like to relax a day and then I want to go do something the next day. So I'm getting older. I need my rest day.
yeah, I like a good rest day myself.
We
Well-
definitely since we've met, every Friday night has been date night, and it's date night in. So we always cook a nice meal together, watch movies, play games, board games, something like that. And we have noticed that when we don't have that day, we're both grouchy, and like if we
Yeah.
have to do something on a Friday night, we're exhausted because we had to leave the house, and we're so used to this reset that we get every week.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have anything like that, I'd recommend it. It's
Yeah,
been-
resets are for sure needed. I don't know. This trip is a road trip, right? That you're going on, hypothetical.
Okay.
Okay, and you go in the gas station, the Loves, the Buc-ee's. What are you bringing out for your snack?
I have a problem with hot Cheetos.
Hot Cheetos.
Hot Cheetos.
Okay, she's bringing hot Cheetos
And a Coke.
and a Coke.
Those
Regular
are my
Coke.
two. Regular
Full
Coke.
flavor, not diet.
No, I thought about this the other day because you make fun of me for my grandma flavors of ice cream and things like that.
You and Jason.
I started thinking about other things in my life, and I was like, I like Fritos, like plain.
I like
Haley likes plain
Fritos.
Fritos. That's so weird.
I don't
that,
like flavored on anything. I
don't
don't
want
want a
the-
flavored drink. I don't want a flavored chip. I don't like Doritos. Like, I just want plain.
You don't want does the Fritos need to be in the chili?
Oh, I love that.
Okay, but
I
you're
can-
still eating them
Oh,
just.
I can go to town on bags of just plain Fritos.
Haley does the same thing. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not.
Bugles, plain bugles too.
Bugles. I've not.
I used to
thought
like those.
that. I didn't have that on my bingo card today. Bugles. So hot Cheetos, Coke. Anything sweet?
I like the Fruity Pebbles Rice Krispie treats. They have those at Buc-ee's.
I didn't have that on my bingo card. That's a good
There
one.
is like
yeah.
a solid brick at Buc-ee's. So we, all of our travel locations now, there's a Buc-ee's on the way
Yeah.
there for work. So I stop and get a Rice Krispie treat.
So it's
Yeah.
a full Rice Krispie treat with like.
It's just made out of Fruity
It's
Pebbles
Fruity
instead
Pebbles
of
instead
Rice
of-
Krispies.
Yeah, I've seen
Rice
those.
Krispies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that and then hot Cheetos on the way home. Now I have to use wipes because I'm like driving and my hands are all red, and I'm usually not in my vehicle, and I'm like, that's kind of gross. So I need
Yeah.
to.
You got the wet wipes.
Yeah.
What did we leave off?
I think we learned a lot about Erika.
Yeah,
I don't think
I do
so.
too.
I don't think we left anything. Erika, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
to get to know you
Yeah.
and
This
learn
was a
about
fun
what you
one.
do too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to be here, and I'm glad more people know about this field.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like, review, subscribe, comment.
Let us know what you would have for your eye.
Yeah. Matching or something cool.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.